Hi everybody. I'm going to go ahead and go through the game I played last night on Universal Battle, and that was with a guy named Fyrax. He played the Trident Realms army. He actually was a guy I watched him play another guy the night before, and then I challenged him to a game, and the next day here, and he actually created a map here, if you look. And before the game started, he wanted to make sure and tell me that those rock ledges in between the Sphinx and the pyramids on the right, and then the rock ledges there in between the hill and the difficult terrain there, that those were obstacles, and that charging over them, even if you had Pathfinder, was going to create a hindered charge no matter what. And I was like, okay, that's fine. He also stated that the water feature up above on the top left was just difficult terrain. I'd never really encountered water features yet, so I was like, okay, it's not impassable, it's just difficult terrain, or at least that's what we're calling it, and that works. So the deployment, as you can see, first we actually were playing the invade scenario, so we were trying to get on the opposite table half from our enemy. So by the end of the game, I wanted to try and get as much as I could possible on his 24-inch side of the table, and he wanted to do the same to get to mine. But deployments, just real quick, I've got my Revenant Cavalry there on the top left. They have Mac War's Potion of the Caterpillar, which gives them Pathfinder, so they'll be able to charge and get their Thunderous Charge with no problem, well, hopefully. The Revenant King, he's right next to him. He actually has the Blade of Slashing, which I forget for the entire game, and he never re-rolls any of his hits. I have a horde of zombie trolls, which zombie trolls at 175 points with crushing strength 2 and shambling speed 6, I feel is one of the biggest bargains in the Undead army. They're extremely useful. They make your enemies think quite a bit, especially when you've got shambling and a source for surge nearby, and they can just they can really dish out damage, and even with defense 4, they're quite a good solution. Then we've got wraiths, which they're kind of back behind the trolls, ready to jump out on something and take it down, just in case. They're speedy, shambling speed 10. So then we've got a necromancer. He's just got Bane Chant. I've got a zombie horde, or zombie legion actually, the 60 unit legion, and they have the undead zombie rats, which give them life leech 2. I've got the vampire lord on the dragon. He has the ensorcelled armor, which makes him defense 6. He's kind of the spearhead of my army, along with the wraiths. The zombie trolls, another unit of them, just because I find them extremely useful, and I wanted to take 2 units and try that out. So there's a second unit there. And then Lycanus, which he's kind of the support for the werewolves, which are on the right hand side. And I actually gave the werewolves, they have crushing strength 2 because I gave them brew of strength. And the Lycanus, he actually has Mace of Crushing, which I also forget. I always forget about Blade of Slashing and Mace of Crushing. So that happens. As for my opponent's army, he has a Centurion Worm Rider there on the left, which is kind of the leader Worm Rider. And then he has 2 units there on the left flank, it looks like, of the Naiad Worm, or Neretican Worm Riders. They're pretty great. Defense 5 unit that I think they hit on 3s. They've got a decent amount of attacks. I think 18 attacks. They're a great unit. And they're speedy. They're like cavalry. They're just as fast as my my Revenant cavalry are. They're speed 8, so they can, and I think they have Pathfinder too, so they're a really good unit. He's also got River Guard. River Guard are speed 6 flyers, which is pretty awesome. They're speed 6 flyers that actually he gave them two-handed weapons to give them crushing strength, which reduces their defense to 3. So they're pretty squishy, but they also have throwing weapons, which make them really good for shooting, as you'll see here in a little bit. He has a Kraken, which, release the Kraken, man. It's a pretty good punchy unit. He's got another one of those Centurion Worm Rider leaders on the center, and then he's got 2 units of the most annoying thing in his army, which are they're called Knockin', and they have breath attacks. They're really good at just jumping up there and shooting stuff. They're a good form of kind of just a distraction unit and something that I have to deal with. Then on his right flank, he kind of put a bunch of, they're called depth horrors, and then a depth horror eternal. The depth horrors are they're only defense 3, I think, but they really hit hard. They've got crushing strength, they've got 18 attacks, and they're just one of those units that you've got to deal with. They're only speed 6 though, so everything on my left flank, his right flank, can pretty much take care of business there, just because I outspeed him with the dragon and the werewolves and the Lycanus, and I can kind of just sit back and see what happens. I'm imagining, since he wanted to try this map out, that he's probably going to want to use that terrain to his advantage and try and get me to charge him. However, I feel like on the right flank there that my werewolves and his depth horrors are kind of isolated. And even after deployment, I didn't really like where I put my werewolves, but you'll see how that gets adjusted later. Okay, here's turn 1, and actually this is before turn 1. Here's his Vanguard move. He just moved his Knockin' up, and he wanted to double check that there was no room or not enough range for my Wraiths to just charge him outright in turn 1. So he stayed out of my 20-inch range and was just hoping for first turn so he could run up there with his Knockin' and shoot me with his breath attacks. Here's turn 1. I actually won for first turn. We rolled off. I just moved up, and I actually repositioned my werewolves so that they weren't over in between those 2 pyramids. I felt like they were kind of isolated there. I just kind of moved up and advanced, and I'm just going to kind of wait to see what he does here. While I did advance, I'm just kind of presenting my battle line to him. Not really a lot has happened thus far other than repositioning. I figure since his depth horrors aren't super fast, that I can probably get them to kind of chase me a little bit if I move kind of more towards the center and left side of the board, and hopefully I can just kind of choose my battles there. Okay, his first turn, it looks like he's just kind of measuring and getting in position. That's kind of the end of the turn there. Let's see. Yeah, that's just my end of turn. So next one, he moved up, and it looks like his River Guard kind of got on top of those obstacles along with his Kraken, and he moved his Worm Riders kind of behind them as support, kind of presented that left flank to me. And if I charge into that, it looks like it's going to be nothing but hindered charges there, and when he has ensnare on a lot of his units on top of that, that really hurts. He went ahead and moved up his Knockin' and shot the living snot out of my trolls. They actually did 7 damage to him, and then he rolled an 11 on 2d6, which means that's 18, which trolls are a fearless 18, so that's exactly what he needed to rout. Luckily I had my Revenant King on Steed right there, so he had to re-roll, and then he rolled like a 3 or 4 or something, so they were fine. But it just goes to show how important inspiring is, because otherwise my trolls would have been ran right off the table there by a little unit of Knockin'. He also shot with his other Knockin'. He shot my my Necromancer, and my Necromancer luckily stuck and didn't run off the table, but that was a good job by him. He could have gotten rid of my Necromancer turn 1 just by plinking him. Then we've got, he shot me with his River Guard and shot my Revenant Cavalry. Luckily they stuck, no problem. He also moved up his Depth Horrors on the right hand side. He's just kind of challenging me to go through that obstacle terrain over there, and which, you know, I don't really feel like doing, because it looks like between that Sphinx and those pyramids he has a small window to kind of charge through to get to me, and I'd rather he have the hindered charge than I take that on. So right now it looks like I could probably take on his left flank with most of my army, and then just kind of leave my right flank to a few units kind of just corralling him, but we'll see how that goes. Next turn, I just moved up again, kind of got in his face. I kind of got a little overzealous with my Wraiths. I went ahead and charged really far forward into his knock-in unit, thinking, oh, I'll just take care of these guys, knock them off the table, and then reform. I really love shambling units, because charges just give you extra movement, and my my zombies and my zombie trolls got to just charge forward and get those knock-in, which gave me a little more of an advance there. So hopefully, I'm thinking between the two of those units, they'll be able to take care of the knock-in. I also repositioned on my left flank, his right, to get a breath weapon attack off with my dragon into his Depth Horrors, and then just kind of challenged him to try and charge out of there into my Lycanus and my trolls, and then my werewolves there as support. My Revenant Cavalry actually backed up to try and keep him from charging them, and also to give that support of a counter charge in case my trolls get charged. So that was my movement. The actual attacks, here we go. By the end of the turn, a little bit of life leech got back some damage there on the trolls from fighting or actually just 1 point, but went ahead and killed the knock-in. The hilarious thing here is now my Wraiths are absolutely screwed, because they failed to do very much damage at all to the knock-in. They're at the center, and so they just bounced off, and now I'm just waiting to get all sorts of charged by his units there. I mean, he's got quite a battle line there that can just charge me. One thing that I wanted to note is he actually had these River Guard and the Kraken sitting right on top of these obstacles that he made very clear at the beginning of the game that was going to cause hindered charges for me if I charged over it. Yet somehow, we'll just go ahead to the next slide here for the bottom of turn 2 for his actions. He charged his River Guard out of there, his Kraken, and I don't think his Centurion was in it. His Centurion was actually just on the hill, so he wasn't going to have a hindered charge, but he was telling me something like flyers don't get hindered charges even if they're sitting on obstacles. So in the spirit of the game, I didn't want to like argue with him, so I was just like, okay, whatever, that's cool, we'll look it up later. But I'd like to hear any comments as to whether those were supposed to be hindered charges, because we didn't count them as hindered charges, because I just took his word for it, and I was just like, okay, you're starting on and going through those obstacles that you said would cause me to have hindered charges, but apparently not for you. Okay, that's fine. But his flyers went into my units. I got incredibly lucky. My defense 6 really held well on my Wraiths, and he was only able to do 4 damage to them with 3 units there. His River Guard kind of failed to damage. His Centurion did a decent job, and then his Knock-in failed to damage me at all. So he did 4 damage to me, and I held, not a problem. Even with that flank charge from the River Guard, I guess it was just a troop of River Guard though, so if that had been like a regiment or something, it would have been scarier. And I really, really lucked out. Again, my trolls with that fearless 18 nerve. I mean, seriously, for 175 points, they are just really great units. I have 9 damage on me, as you can see, and got dual charged by a Kraken and Riverguard and still held. So no problem there. And even if I hadn't held, I've still got my Inspiring right behind there with my Revenant King. He really comes in handy, keeping my units inspired. And now if you can, I mean, just look at this. I think that's quite a bit of luck, and I even told my opponent at the end of the game, Fireaxe, he's a super good guy. He was very kind and very cool throughout the whole thing. And this turn right here, failing to waver or route any of these charges really set the tone for the rest of the game, I feel like. And a lot of that had to do with dice. So, sometimes it swings your way. So here's my next turn, and I just went ahead and got everything in position here. I moved up my trolls to get out of his charge range, kind of just get them out of the way. I moved on the right there. I moved my werewolves to kind of challenge him, because I've got the ruler set there just to show he's only got a 12-inch charge range, and he's going to be hindered if he charges through there. So I'm just saying, okay, I've got an 18-inch charge range with those werewolves. Come on out if you want to fight, but I'm not going to just let you charge me. So they're just kind of challenging him to come out of there. I really feel like at this point, since he was just kind of sitting there, I'm at the point right now where I'm being able to select my fights, especially after his last turn really failed to route anything, and I feel like I'm going to be able to kind of piecemeal take his army apart. But we'll see how that goes. I moved my dragon up to kind of give support. My wraiths actually flew over his Centurion Worm Rider and the Nock-In, and he's going to do the classic nimble trick where you just fly over, pull a 180-degree turn, since you can make 2 90-degree turns since you're a nimble flyer, and then just get within 1 inch of a rear charge there on his Centurion Worm Rider. So they're going to kind of, I've got the Revenant King, I moved him up, and he's on that hill within 12 inches of the Wraiths, and I've got him with Surge 6, so I should be able to pull off that charge using Surge and Shambling. But just in case, I've got the Dragon Lord there with Surge 3, just in case there's some anomaly where they don't get in. But then my Dragon Lord, he's actually, in case that does go off and my Revenant King is successful, he's going to go ahead and just breath attack the Nock-In to get rid of those. My Zombie Legion countercharged or not countercharged because it is a new charge, but charged the River Guard there. I had thought it was a front or a flank charge, but as he pointed out, my arc was actually my center point was in his front arc. So having a large unit like that, sometimes it looks like you've got a flank charge when you don't, which is fine. I'm like, okay, I'll charge you in the front. It'll be 40 attacks instead of 80. No big deal. I still think I'm going to take care of business there. I kind of ignored his Kraken just because I was like, I need to take care of everything else right now. My zombie trolls on the left, his left flank, my right, just went ahead and charged his River Guard to countercharge them and hopefully get back a point of damage with Life Leech. My Revenant Cavalry, they just moved up and challenged the Worm Riders, saying, hey, I'm Fearless 17, so come and get it. At this point, the rest of my army is doing its work. Hopefully my Revenant Cavalry can tie you up and get you in position to where I can get a flank charge off as long as my other charges work out. So this is the shooting phase for top of turn 3, and I went ahead and my Revenant King successfully shambled the used Surge to shamble the Wraiths into the flank or the rear charge of that Centurion Worm Rider, which is awesome. Hilarious thing happened here with my Dragon Lord. He only managed to waver the Nock-In. he only did 2 points of damage. So those knock-in, they stick around, man. They're still alive and kicking and still here to annoy me. The Necromancer managed to, as you can see, the little purple star there, that's my little insignia for Bane Chant, and they're Bane Chanted so that they can take care of the River Guard. So that's all the shooting. Here's the how the combat ended up. As you can see, my Wraiths took care of that Centurion Worm Rider. They repositioned to kind of show, hey, I'm coming out after your flanks. The Zombie Legion went ahead and took care of that River Guard that was sitting there, and they repositioned. My Zombie Trolls had no problem with the other unit of River Guard, and they actually backed up a little bit to try and get out of a flank charge from that Worm Rider Centurion. There is a little sliver there. I don't know if that's a legal charge, probably, but we'll see. We'll see if he attempts that. So everybody's in position. I've taken out quite a bit of his initial charge. I'm ready to take on these Worm Riders, but they're going to have to charge me, and if they do, it's going to be hindered because they're coming out off those obstacles and difficult terrain. And he made very clear with this map he created that even Pathfinder wouldn't save him. So I'm going to let him come to me here. All of his shooting is pretty much gone or wavered, and I think I have the upper hand here. So on his next turn, he went ahead. I just wanted to take a picture of this, and he just charged his Centurion Lord into that little 3mm gap there, and the front flank of my zombie trolls, and that just goes to show that was bad movement on my part. If you're gonna leave your flank exposed even a little bit, sometimes they'll get to you. So that was a good catch by him and bad movement by me. I probably should have tried to wheel those guys or rotate them rather than back them up, because that just exposed a flank charge. And now my zombie trolls are probably dead. I mean, I fully expect them to die, but they've done their job. They've absorbed quite a bit of damage, and they've put out quite a bit of damage. And for 175 points, best bargain in the Undead army as far as I'm concerned. Okay, here's his bottom of turn 3. I just went ahead and skipped ahead because he didn't really have any shooting. He went ahead and charged out of there. A couple hindered charges, but that's okay. He managed to dual charge those zombie trolls and kill them, and then he just kind of reformed to kind of face the rest of my units. He kind of understood, okay, well, I'm gonna get flank charged somewhere probably, so I've got a nice wonderful flank charge there on his Worm Riders with my Wraiths for next turn. His Centurion Lord bounced off and just kind of repositioned. His other Worm Riders charged my Revenant Cavalry, did 4 damage, and they held. So once again, I love fearless units with high defense. They've got defense 5, they're fearless 17. I'm a really big fan of Revenant Cavalry. I know that they're not taken as much as a lot of other units, but they're fast. They can take a beating, and even if they don't get to use their Thunderous Charge, they're a unit that can hold the line and get ready for other units to do the damage. So, all right, so that's the end of that turn. Next we go to top of turn 4, my movement. I went ahead and took that flank charge there on those Worm Riders. That was my favorite charge of the turn. My Zombie Dragon made it in to charge. The front of them, he just kind of flew in there. There's just enough room, so that was great. Then after those charges, I did the zombie trolls, and I actually didn't think there was room, but he went ahead and just said go ahead and do it because it's not going to matter because your zombie trolls are going to take care of it anyway. And I was like, okay, and it looked like there was just enough room for my my zombie legion to get in there. I wasn't going to dual charge, but I was like, oh well, if you're like, yeah, go ahead and do it, I'll do it, that's fine. It turns out all we rolled was the zombie trolls anyway, so it didn't really matter. But the zombies and zombie trolls went into the noggin. I went ahead and countercharged his other worm riders with my Revenant Cavalry. Wasn't really expecting them to do much, but I got my, as you can see, I got my Necromancer in range of 12 inches so that I can Bane Chant those guys and kind of give them an extra punch since they weren't going to get their Thunderous Charge. My Werewolves charged his Depth Horrors that had finally come out of hiding over there. I guess last turn I didn't really make note of that. Maybe I did, but his Depth Horrors finally came out and decided to get on the other side of that terrain. So my Werewolves took the bait. They were just like, okay, we got to deal with them. And then after this turn, once all these other combats happen, I'll probably get my Trolls back in the game and my Lycanus back in the game just so that they can come help out with those Depth Horrors. But with Crushing Strength 2 due to Brew of Strength, I think that my Werewolf should be able to handle these guys. They hit really hard, but they can't take a beating very well. So, here's the end of combat. I did really well. My Revenant Cavalry did 7 damage to his Worm Riders, and with the Bane Chant that really helped, giving him Crushing Strength 1. It's always good to have Bane Chant for your units that don't have it, don't have Crushing Strength. It's helpful. Always take at least one form of Bane Chant, I think, is a good way to be, but that's just me. His other unit of the Worm Riders, they got absolutely walloped. The flank charge and then the front charge from the dragon took care of them. Really, that's kind of the scalpel of my army. The spear tip is the wraiths and the dragon. They're fast, they hit hard, and if you're going to get charged by them, they're probably not going to be around. The zombie trolls did all the work themselves. The only benefit that I got was just the life leech, because I started rolling my zombies and he's like, just go ahead and roll and don't get double ones, and I was like, okay, I just wanted to make sure I get damage, so I get my life leech too, and so I got a couple points back there. My zombie trolls, they turned around and just kind of faced the other direction after that combat so that they could help out with the Depth Horrors in case they became a problem. At this point in the game, it was kind of looking like this was going to be no problem for me to finish things out. That and most of my army was on his side of the table or close to getting there. So I was just like, okay, let's just pick off the rest of this. I do have his Kraken and his Centurion Worm Rider there that I've kind of ignored a little bit. His Kraken, though, I don't think he has any other choice but to charge my zombies at this point, which, that Zombie Legion is going to keep him in check for several turns without a problem. So here's the turn 4, bottom of turn 4 for him. And he went ahead and charged, and we didn't really get a look at all of his charges and his movement. I apologize for that. I didn't get that screenshot. I was probably just too excited that I was doing so well, and luck was definitely in my favor here. But he went ahead and countercharged and killed my Revenant Cavalry, which was fine. I was like, okay. Also, he has regenerate on those Worm Riders, which is awesome. I think he got like 4 wounds back, 4 or 5 wounds back, or 4 or 5 damage. That's awesome. The regenerate is sweet. He went ahead and charged my Zombie Legion with his Kraken. Did quite a bit of damage, actually, but still not enough to take care of business. He charged on the top center there, you can see he charged my Necromancer, and he only managed to do 3 damage and didn't manage to rout him. He did really bad on his nerve roll, and my Necromancer, which I just pretty much resigned him to be dead at that point. I was like, yeah, I kind of ignored your Centurion Worm Rider. He's going to kill my Necromancer, no big deal. However, he stuck. Luck was still on my side. I kind of felt bad about that because I was like, man, he's just not getting things done. And then my werewolves he actually moved his depth horror unit that got absolutely rocked the previous turn by my werewolves. I don't know if I said anything about that, but I really did a lot of damage to his depth horrors that turn, but I did not manage to rout them. They just kind of wavered and stuck. Let's see. Yeah, they were wavered, but he moved them backwards to get them out of the way, and then his depth horror Eternal, the leader little model there, charged me and did 1 damage to me. So he was able to get a charge off there, but I'm just, whatever. They're not a problem for me right now. They're all kind of stuck behind that Sphinx and the pyramid, and kind of either stuck in difficult terrain or not a problem for me. I feel like the werewolves have got it in hand, but I was going to move up. The next turn I was going to move up and just kind of challenge him there with what I had left and what he had left. So that was kind of his damage. He just did 1 damage to those werewolves. Otherwise, he took out my Revenant Cavalry and was just kind of attacking my zombie legion. My next turn, I made a big error here, which was kind of funny. I went ahead and moved my Lycanus up to try and help out with the Depth Horrors, and I went ahead and charged the Depth Horror Eternal with my werewolves. But my Lycanus got just right in, as you can see with the charge arc there. Perfect charge arc of that Centurion. So the Centurion Worm Rider was going to get a rear charge on him if I moved my Necromancer at all. So I was like, you know what? My Necromancer is just going to take 1 for the team, point himself at the zombies, hopefully get off Bane Chant 1 last time, and then the next turn he's going to die. Because even if he overruns after killing him, he's not going to make it to my Lycanus. He only gets a D6 overrun, so we'll just go ahead and sacrifice my Necromancer since I made that stupid move and got my Lycanus into a rear charge range of the Centurion. So my zombie trolls moved up. They just kind of went up there to help out just in case. While it's top of turn 5 though, so I'm kind of debating on whether I want to move all this stuff up past the 24-inch mark, because I really don't want to lose the scenario just by not having enough points on the invade side of the table, my opponents. I went ahead and countercharged this Kraken. I've got Life Leech 2 because of the giant zombie rats, so I'm going to get 2 damage back for whatever damage I do there. I charged the remaining Worm Rider unit with my Zombie Lord and my my Wraiths. They only have 3 damage on them right now, but I feel like I should be able to wipe that unit out with that dual charge. Once again, my attack unit, my attack force comes through and just mopping up. Okay, so here's after combat. Sure enough, my dragon and my wraiths took care of business there. My wraiths turned around because if his Kraken is just going to keep fighting my zombies, I'm just going to wait until next turn after he's done slap fighting them again and just do a flank charge and kill his Kraken with my wraiths. My Zombie Lord turned around just in case somehow my Necromancer doesn't die. I can rear charge his Centurion, or either that or next turn's going to be turn 6 and I'll probably just fly him down into my enemy's side of the board, because my Dragon Lord is like 365 points with the Ensorcelled Armor, so he's a lot of points and I want to make sure I get those on his side of the table. My zombies went ahead and slap fight, did 3 damage, recouped 2 due to Life Leech. My werewolves managed to kill the Depth Horror Eternal, so that was a good thing, not a problem. And then, they just kind of repositioned and were like, okay, bring it on, Depth Horrors. One of you is hurting really bad, and one of you really is going to have a hard time fitting in there. But it's kind of looking like this is going to be no problem to finish this game out. And I mean, I was just able to, with the deployment and the way that the game was set up, I was able to select how the game was going to go just because I kind of put my army all through the same area, and I made him come out of that obstacle, difficult terrain. So it worked out. He went ahead, and as you can see, here's his movement. He charged my necromancer. At this point, I'm fully expecting him to die. If he doesn't, I will be very surprised. One thing that actually he did do, and I forgot about this. He put his depth horror back on the table, 1 inch away from my werewolves. I actually reformed him back up because I guess he noticed that I did route him, then I re-rolled, and then I guess it was only a wavered result. So he put his depth horror back, which I was like, okay, that's fine, spirit of the game, whatever. But so that's why his depth horror is back, or his depth horror eternal is back on the table with a wavered token. Because I was like, okay, that's fine, not going to be a big deal. But he just backed everything up, which, at this point I think he's just trying to. I don't know what he's trying to do because I'm just going to charge him and kill everything. I thought he'd at least try to get one of those units in there to do some damage on me, but he decided not to. His Kraken just charged in on my zombies again, kind of what I expected. Just trying to slap fight with Fearless 28 Legion. Even with Defense 3, I mean, they're a great unit to hold things up. Okay, here's the end of the turn. He did quite a bit of damage actually on my Zombie Legion. Still not enough to get rid of him. And he managed to kill my Necromancer with his Centurion Wormrider, which, I fully expected that. Okay, here is top of turn 6. I just kind of got the 24-inch ruler out here to kind of see where I was and what I needed to do to get the win here. I flank charged his Kraken with my Wraiths, moved the Dragon down to kind of get him where he needed to be to get the points, victory points. My Trolls, they kind of just sat back and looked at his Centurion just in case he was going to charge something. My werewolves at this point, I'm like, I got enough points on that side of the table, and I'm dual charging his Kraken, which is probably going to die. So I sent my werewolves in to try and finally finish off his Depth Horror Eternal that didn't die last turn, because he magically reappeared. And then my Lycanus, I was just like, okay, if I can get 1 point of damage, even though I'm going to have a hindered charge and ensnare on these units, it's going to put me at a -2 to hit. So instead of 3s, I'm going to be hitting on 5s. I've got 5 attacks, and if I can get 1 point of damage through with my Crushing Strength 2 on my Lycanus, then I'll get to roll again, and he's already got 9 damage on him. So that's a pretty good odd of, I mean, it'd be a shot in the dark, but maybe I could get a nerve roll high enough to rout those guys. So that was my thought process there. But just as you can see, showing no mercy there. Just want to get max points, even though I didn't need to. The end of the turn, my Wraiths and the zombies, sure enough, took care of his Kraken. It's dead. The werewolves did a great job. They finally routed the Death Horror Eternal. So he's finally dead for real. My Lycanus managed to hit once, and then all he needed to do was roll a 2 for damage, and he rolled a 1. So I managed to do 0 damage to the Depth Horrors, didn't even get a roll nerve, and he bounced off. So that's all right. Moral victory, right? So that was the end of that. And then this is kind of the end of the game, kind of how it ended up. I had a lot of points that were on my side of the table, or that were on his side of the table. He didn't have much left, and he only had really 2 units that were fully on my side of the table. So it was definitely a win for me. Things worked out. I believe that terrain played a lot into this, and just the way that he kind of played very conservatively. I told him after the game, I felt like if he had been a little more offensive, gotten up there, kind of gotten in my face, that things probably would have gone a little better. Also, I think that isolating the depth horrors over on his right flank, my left, kind of allowed me to choose my battles a little more, because a big chunk of his army wasn't in the fight. Another thing that I talked to him about was I actually played another Trident Realms player from Australia a while ago, and this guy had the 4 cannons, and they literally shot my army apart. So I was like, man, try out those Leviathan Bane. I think they're giant harpoon guns, but they killed my Vampire Lord in 1 turn. So I don't know if he's just going for a more punchy mobile force, which I like the idea. I like the variety, because I've seen a few Trident Realms armies ideas, and all of them are different. That's what I love. I'm actually building a Trident Realms army myself, and I'm going to likely put together something with a lot of variety. A lot of the units might not even be that effective. I'm taking Thule, because Thule are awesome, because they're half man, half octopus. So I can't wait to have octopi men modeled on the table. As far as units in this game, I'm actually in the process. I own all the models that I used in this game, and I'm kind of preparing that for tournaments. We've got 3 here in Nebraska coming up. In case you didn't know, or in case you're in the Midwest and want to come out, we're having a tournament for the Outlanders on January 9th at the Brookstone Retirement Center. It's going to be a 1,500 point tournament, and it's $20 for entry plus a pizza lunch, so you'll get lunch too. So and that's with full prize support from Mantic. So yeah, come on out. Otherwise, I'm going to do some more of these battle reports on Universal Battle. They're a lot of fun. I feel like the Universal Battle translates really well to a computer-based tabletop game. And as you can see here, it's a really great way to try out new armies, because this is not by any means the army I'm going to use at Adepticon or anything, but it's a fun little 2,000 point list, and I like to take two units of trolls, and I think they really helped out this game. So, or at least one unit did. The other kind of just threatened. He may have he attacked one thing. I think it was the Knockin', but that's okay. Wraiths did a great job. Did a great job of absorbing damage and not getting killed. That was so lucky. But anyway, there's my army. Trident Realms are really awesome. I can't wait to play them. And Fire Axe, if you're listening, you're a great guy, and it was a lot of fun playing you, man. Thanks for the game.